The evening air carried a hint of autumn as Lucy Chen hurried through the employee entrance of the Golden Leaf restaurant. She was running 10 minutes late for her shift, something that rarely happened in her 3 years of working there. The restaurant, nestled in the heart of the city's financial district, was known for its elegant atmosphere and clientele of business executives, celebrities, and the occasional wealthy tourist. "I'm so sorry, Diane," Lucy whispered to the hostess as she slipped past the reservation desk. "The bus broke down and I had to wait for the next one." Diane smiled understandingly. "Don't worry about it. Thomas hasn't noticed and we're not full yet." She gestured toward the dining room. "Though table 7 has your favorite type of customer. Big spender impatient, keeps checking his watch." Lucy nodded gratefully and rushed to the staff room. She quickly tied her dark hair into a neat bun and straightened her uniform, a crisp white shirt and black pants that all servers wore. After splashing some cold water on her face, she took a deep breath and reminded herself that every difficult customer meant potential tips, and every dollar brought her closer to her dream. At 26, Lucy had learned to be practical about her aspirations. She'd once been a promising piano student at the state university, her professors commenting on her natural talent and emotional depth when she played. But life had taken an unexpected turn when her father fell ill during her second year. The medical bills piled up, and despite scholarships, Lucy couldn't afford to continue her education. She withdrew from school, promising herself it would be temporary. 3 years later, that temporary pause had stretched on. Between working full-time at the Golden Leaf and part-time giving piano lessons to neighborhood children on weekends, Lucy managed to help her now recovered father with his ongoing medical expenses, while slowly saving for her return to music school. Some nights, after double shifts left her feet aching, she wondered if she would ever make it back. "Lucy, table 7 is getting restless," called Thomas, the floor manager, as she emerged from the staff room. "On it," she replied with a professional smile that hid her tiredness. The Golden Leaf's dining room was a study in understated luxury. Soft lighting from crystal chandeliers reflected off dark wood panels. White tablecloths contrasted with deep burgundy chairs, and fresh flowers adorned each table. A grand piano sat in the corner, a beautiful instrument that was mostly for show. Occasionally, on weekend evenings, the restaurant hired a pianist to provide background music, but tonight it sat silent. Lucy approached table 7, notepad ready. The man sitting alone was in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. What caught her attention wasn't his obvious wealth, but the intensity in his eyes as he studied the wine menu. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Golden Leaf. My name is Lucy, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you off with something to drink while you look at the menu?" Her voice was warm and professional. The man looked up, his expression shifting from impatience to mild curiosity. "You're not the server who gave me water earlier?" "No, sir. I apologize for the delay in getting to your table." He waved off her apology. "I'll have the 2015 Bordeaux." He didn't look at the price, a sure sign of someone to whom money was no object. "Excellent choice. I'll bring that right out. Would you like to hear about our specials this evening?" "Please." His tone was clipped, but not rude. As Lucy described the chef's special seafood risotto and the prime ribeye with truffle butter, she noticed the man was only half listening. His attention had shifted to something behind her. Later, she would realize he had been looking at the piano. "I'll have the ribeye, medium rare," he said when she finished. "And the arugula salad to start." "Of course, sir. I'll put that order in right away." Throughout the next hour, Lucy moved efficiently between her tables, including the one occupied by the man she now recognized as William Barrett. The name had clicked when another customer had approached him briefly to shake hands. Even Lucy knew who Barrett was, a real estate developer responsible for half the city's newest buildings, with a reported net worth in the billions. He wasn't a celebrity exactly, but in financial circles he was legendary. During her trips to his table, Lucy noticed that Barrett was distracted. He answered business calls briefly, spoke politely but minimally when she checked on him, and seemed lost in thought. It wasn't until she cleared his dessert plate that he finally engaged in real conversation. "Have you worked here long?" he asked unexpectedly. The question surprised her. Wealthy customers rarely showed interest in the staff's lives. "About 3 years now, sir. Do you enjoy it?" Lucy paused. "It's a good job. The team is like family." Barrett nodded, studying her with newfound interest. I couldn't help but notice you humming earlier when you thought no one was listening. Heat rushed to Lucy's cheeks. She sometimes did hum absent-mindedly, a habit from her music days. I'm sorry if it was unprofessional. Not at all. It was Debussy, wasn't it? Clair de Lune. Now Lucy was truly surprised. Yes, it was. Do you play? Barrett gestured toward the grand piano. The question stirred something in Lucy, a bittersweet feeling she often pushed away. I used to, in school, but not anymore. Life happens, she said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Can I get you anything else, Mr. Barrett? Coffee, perhaps. He shook his head but didn't return to his phone. Instead, he looked thoughtful as if making a decision. That piano is just for show, I suppose. Sometimes we have performers on weekends, Lucy explained. It's a beautiful instrument. Yamaha C3, I believe. Barrett raised an eyebrow. You know your pianos, Lucy shrugged. Old habits. For the next few minutes, Lucy attended to her other tables, but she felt Barrett's gaze following her occasionally. It wasn't uncomfortable or inappropriate, more curious than anything else. When she returned with his check, he surprised her again. Tell me, if you had continued with piano, what would you have done with it? The unexpected question caught Lucy off guard. Most people didn't ask about abandoned dreams. I was studying piano performance. The goal was to teach at university level, maybe perform with regional orchestras. She surprised herself by adding, I still practice when I can. There's a community center with a decent upright that lets me use their room sometimes. Barrett nodded thoughtfully, signing the check with a generous tip. But instead of getting up to leave, he turned in his chair to face the piano across the room. The dining area had emptied somewhat as the evening wore on, with only about half the table still occupied. Would you play something? Lucy stared at him, certain she had misheard. I'm sorry? The piano. Would you play something? That Debussy piece you were humming, perhaps? I couldn't possibly. I'm working and I'd like to make it worth your while, Barrett interrupted. His tone wasn't demanding, but there was a certainty to it, as if he was used to making offers people didn't refuse. Consider it a private performance. Lucy glanced nervously toward Thomas, who was busy at the hostess stand. It's not allowed. The piano is only for scheduled entertainment. Barrett followed her gaze and stood up, straightening his jacket. One moment. To her horror, Lucy watched as the billionaire walked directly to Thomas. She couldn't hear their conversation, but she saw Thomas's expression change from professional politeness to surprise, then to something like pleased amazement. Money was exchanging hands, a lot of it from the look of Thomas's face. When Barrett returned, his eyes held a challenge. Your manager has agreed to give you a 15-minute break. Apparently the owner is a friend of mine, though I didn't realize it until just now. He smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Sometimes the world is conveniently small. Lucy felt trapped between embarrassment and a sudden, unexpected longing. It had been months since she'd touched a proper grand piano. Her fingers almost tingled at the thought. I'm out of practice, she said weakly. I'm not expecting a concert performance. Just a moment of real music in a world filled with too many artificial sounds. There was something in his voice, not just the command of wealth, but a genuine wish. Thomas appeared at her side. Go ahead, Lucy. Mr. Barrett has made a generous donation to our staff holiday fund. The look on his face told her this wasn't really a request. Heart pounding, Lucy slowly made her way to the piano. A few of the remaining diners glanced over curiously. One of the other servers, May, gave her a confused look. Lucy felt like she was moving through a dream, one of those dreams where you find yourself on stage unprepared. The piano bench was cold beneath her as she sat down. She adjusted it slightly out of habit, then lifted the fallboard to reveal the keys, pristine white and black, waiting. Lucy placed her hands in her lap, trying to calm their slight trembling. It had been years since she'd played for anyone except her young students or herself. Barrett had followed her but stood at a respectful distance. He wasn't pressing her or rushing her, just waiting. Something about his patient silence gave her courage. Lucy placed her fingers on the keys and began the opening notes of Clair de Lune. The first few measures were hesitant, her muscle memory fighting through years of disuse on a proper instrument. But then something shifted. The restaurant around her faded away as the music took over. Flowing from her fingers like water returning to a dry riverbed, she forgot about Barrett, forgot about the other diners, forgot about everything except the conversation between her hands and the piano. The gentle, dreamlike quality of the piece filled the room, creating a moment of unexpected beauty in the ordinary evening. When the final notes faded, Lucy remained still for a moment, eyes closed, unwilling to break the spell. Then the sound of applause brought her back to reality. Several diners were clapping, and even the kitchen staff had paused to listen, standing in the doorway. Lucy stood quickly, embarrassed by the attention. She gave a small, awkward nod and tried to hurry back to work, but Barrett intercepted her. "That wasn't someone who used to play," he said quietly. "That was someone who needs to play." Lucy didn't know how to respond. The truth of his words stung and comforted at the same time. "Thank you for the music," Barrett continued. He handed her a business card. "I have a proposition for you, but not here. Call my office tomorrow. My assistant will put you through." Before Lucy could respond, he was walking away, nodding to Thomas at the door. Lucy stared at the card in her hand, embossed with just a name and phone number. What was that all about? May whispered as she passed with a tray of drinks. Lucy shook her head, still dazed. "I have no idea." She tucked the card into her pocket, certain of only one thing. Tomorrow would bring something unexpected. Lucy barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed the moment her fingers touched the keys of that beautiful grand piano. The feeling had been electric, like reuniting with an old friend. And then there was William Barrett's business card burning a hole in her pocket. "He has a proposition for you," her roommate Tina said the next morning, wiggling her eyebrows suggestively as Lucy showed her the card over breakfast. "Not that kind of proposition," Lucy said, rolling her eyes. "He's like 30 years older than me." "Rich guys are always looking for trophy wives," Tina persisted, only half joking. "He heard me play piano. It's probably something to do with that." Lucy stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "Maybe he needs someone to teach his grandkids or something." Tina snorted. With his money, he could hire the head of Juilliard to teach his grandkids. That was true enough. Lucy glanced at the clock and realized she'd be late for her morning piano student if she didn't hurry. "I probably won't even call," she said, though both of them knew she was lying. All through her lessons with 8-year-old Tommy and his 5-year-old sister Zoe, Lucy found herself distracted. Tommy noticed immediately. "You're not listening." "Miss Lucy," he complained when she failed to praise his improved scale technique. "I'm sorry. Tommy, you're right." She focused her attention fully on the boy. "That was much better than last week." "You've been practicing." He beamed at the recognition, and Lucy felt guilty for her wandering mind. These kids and their parents paid good money for lessons. They deserved her full attention. By noon, her morning lessons were finished, and Lucy found herself staring at Barrett's business card again. Her afternoon shift at the Golden Leaf didn't start until 4. Without giving herself time to reconsider, she dialed the number. "Barrett Enterprises," answered a crisp, professional voice. "Hi, my name is Lucy Chen. Mr. Barrett asked me to call. I'm a waitress at—" "Yes, Miss Chen. Mr. Barrett left instructions regarding your call. Please hold." Lucy's heart pounded as gentle hold music played. What was she doing? This whole situation felt unreal. "Lucy." Barrett's voice came through suddenly. "I'm glad you called. I wasn't entirely sure you would." "To be honest, sir, I wasn't sure either." He chuckled. "William, please. And I understand your hesitation. It's not every day a stranger asks you to call after hearing you play piano." "About that," Lucy said, gathering her courage. "I appreciate the opportunity to play yesterday, but I'm not sure why you wanted me to call." Direct. "I like that." William paused. "I have a proposition that might interest you, but it's better discussed in person. Are you available to meet today?" Lucy hesitated. "I work at 4. Lunch then?" "There's a cafe near my office, the Copper Kettle." "Do you know it?" She did. It was the kind of place she walked past but never entered. Small tables, expensive coffee, people in business attire having important meetings. "Yes, 1 o'clock." "My treat, of course." Lucy checked the time. That gave her just enough time to go home, change, and get downtown. "Okay, 1 o'clock. Excellent. I look forward to it." After hanging up, Lucy stood frozen for a moment. What had she just agreed to? Meeting a billionaire for lunch to discuss some mysterious proposition? It sounded like the beginning of either a fairy tale or a cautionary story. She called Tina immediately. "If I'm not home by 3, call the police and tell them I was meeting William Barrett at the Copper Kettle." Tina laughed. "Dramatic much?" He's a public figure, not a serial killer. But okay, I'll be your safety net. At 12:55, Lucy pushed open the door to the copper kettle, feeling distinctly out of place in her nicest non-work outfit, dark jeans and a blue blouse that Tina always said brought out her eyes. Most of the other patrons wore suits or designer dresses. William Barrett spotted her immediately and stood from a corner table waving her over. He was dressed more casually than the previous night in a light sweater and slacks that probably cost more than Lucy's entire wardrobe. "Lucy, thank you for coming," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of ordering a selection of their best sandwiches and salads. Their chef makes an excellent chicken pesto." "That sounds wonderful, thank you." Lucy settled into her chair, trying not to fidget. "So, you mentioned a proposition?" William smiled. "Straight to business. First, tell me about your background with piano. You play with remarkable emotion." The compliment warmed her despite her nervousness. "I started when I was 6. My mother loved classical music, though she never played herself. I got serious about it in high school and was accepted to the music program at State University. But you didn't finish," he prompted gently. Lucy's hands tightened around her water glass. "No. My dad got sick during my sophomore year, cancer, the medical bills. Well, even with insurance, it was too much. I took a leave of absence to help out at home, started waiting tables. One semester turned into 2, then a year, and..." She shrugged. "Here we are. And your father?" "He's better now. In remission. But going back to school..." She stopped as a waiter arrived with their food. The spread was impressive. Artisan sandwiches, fresh salads, and 2 bowls of soup that smelled amazing. William waited until they were alone again. "Going back to school isn't financially feasible?" he finished for her. "Not right now?" Lucy took a bite of sandwich to avoid saying more. She hated talking about money, especially with someone who had so much of it. "What would you say if I told you I have connections at the Westridge Conservatory of Music?" Lucy nearly choked. The Westridge Conservatory was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country, far more elite than State University's program. "I'd say that's nice," she replied cautiously. William smiled. "I serve on their board of trustees. The director is an old friend. Mr. Barrett, William. That's impressive, but I don't understand what this has to do with me." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "Every year they hold a special competition. The winner receives a full scholarship to complete their degree, plus a stipend for living expenses." Lucy's heart began to race. "And you think I should apply?" "I know you should apply. Your playing last night, despite your own admission of being out of practice, showed remarkable talent." Lucy put down her fork. "With all due respect, you heard me play one piece. For a few minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "The competition is in 3 weeks. I've spoken to the director this morning and they're willing to give you a late entry spot." Lucy stared at the envelope but didn't take it. "Why? Why would you do this for a waitress you just met?" William's expression softened. 25 years ago, my wife was a piano student at Juilliard. She never finished her degree, chose to support my career instead. She always regretted it, though she never complained." His eyes grew distant. "Eleanor passed away 5 years ago. Cancer like your father." "I'm sorry," Lucy said softly. "When I heard you play last night, you reminded me of her. Same passion, same touch on the keys." He pushed the envelope toward Lucy. "Consider it my small attempt to right a cosmic wrong. Talent shouldn't be wasted because of financial circumstances." Lucy finally took the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly. 3 weeks isn't much time to prepare for a competition of that caliber. That brings me to the second part of my proposition. I own a penthouse apartment downtown that's sitting empty. It has a Steinway grand piano. I'm offering it to you to practice any time of day or night between now and the competition." Lucy's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious, completely serious. No strings attached. The doorman will have your name. Come and go as you please. I still have to work. Pay rent, I can't just..." "The competition requires 3 pieces," William interrupted. "If you can prepare those, I'll cover your rent and expenses until the competition. If you win, the scholarship takes over. If not," he shrugged, "you'll have had 3 weeks of intensive piano practice on a world-class instrument, and maybe some closure on what might have been." Lucy felt overwhelmed. This kind of thing didn't happen in real life. Why would you do all this for a stranger? William was quiet for a moment. Because sometimes people need just one break, one person to believe in them to change the trajectory of their entire life. Eleanor never got that chance, he smiled sadly. And selfishly, I'd like to hear you play again. Lucy looked down at the envelope in her hands. Inside was either a cruel joke or the opportunity of a lifetime. What if I'm not good enough? It's been years since I've played seriously. That's not for me to judge. That's what the competition is for. William's phone buzzed and he checked it with a frown. I apologize, but I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Of course, Lucy said, suddenly remembering he was an important businessman with an actual life beyond this bizarre lunch meeting. Thank you for the food and this. She held up the envelope. The address for the apartment is inside, along with the competition details. William stood and extended his hand. I hope you'll at least consider it. Lucy shook his hand, still dazed. I will. As she walked out of the cafe, her head spinning with possibilities, her phone buzzed with a text from Tina. Still alive? Should I call the cops? Lucy smiled and typed back, very much alive. And possibly dreaming. Tell you everything later. That afternoon at the Golden Leaf, Lucy moved through her shift in a fog. The envelope sat in her bag like a ticking bomb. Every time she passed the piano in the corner, she felt it calling to her. During her break, she finally opened it. Inside was an official invitation to the West Ridge Conservatory Elite Performance Competition, with her name already printed on it. Also included was an address in the most expensive part of downtown, a security code, and a handwritten note. The piano is tuned and waiting. WB, by the end of her shift, Lucy had made her decision. She approached Thomas, her hands clammy with nervousness. I need to adjust my schedule for the next 3 weeks, she said. It's for a music competition. Thomas raised his eyebrows. This wouldn't have anything to do with Mr. Barrett's visit yesterday, would it? Lucy blinked in surprise. How did you? He called the owner this morning. Your schedule is already adjusted? Thomas smiled at her shocked expression. Don't look so surprised. Rich people move fast when they want something done. And the owner agreed? Just like that? Thomas shrugged. Barrett is an investor in half the businesses downtown. Including this one, apparently. He patted her shoulder. Good luck with whatever this is, Lucy. Just don't forget us little people when you're famous. Lucy left work that night with her heart pounding. Instead of taking her usual bus home, she found herself walking toward the address on the card. She had to see if this was real or some elaborate prank. 20 minutes later, she stood before one of the most exclusive buildings in the city, gathering her courage to step inside and say the words that might change everything. My name is Lucy Chen. Mr. Barrett is expecting me. The doorman of the luxury building smiled warmly as Lucy approached the front desk, her heart hammering in her chest. Good evening, miss. How can I help you? He asked. Lucy cleared her throat. My name is Lucy Chen. Mr. Barrett said I could use his apartment to practice piano. The words sounded ridiculous coming out of her mouth. To her surprise, the doorman nodded immediately. Yes, Miss Chen, Mr. Barrett called earlier today. You're on our approved visitor list with full access. He handed her a temporary key card. Penthouse B. The elevator will take you directly up when you use this card. Thank you, Lucy said, taking the card with slightly trembling fingers. This was really happening. The elevator was mirrored and spotless with soft music playing as it carried her upward. Lucy caught her reflection. Tired eyes, hair slightly messy from her shift, still wearing her waitress uniform minus the apron. She looked completely out of place. The doors opened directly into a foyer with marble floors and tasteful artwork. Lucy stepped out hesitantly. Hello, she called. Though she was fairly certain no one was there. Only silence greeted her. She ventured further in, past a modern kitchen with gleaming appliances and into a vast living area with floor-to-ceiling windows. The city lights spread out below like a carpet of stars, a view that people paid millions to wake up to every day. And there it was, the piano. A magnificent black Steinway grand, positioned near the windows to catch the view. Lucy approached it almost reverently, afraid to touch it at first. She'd never played an instrument this valuable. The most expensive piano she'd ever touched was the Yamaha at the Golden Leaf, and even that was nothing compared to this masterpiece. Gently, She lifted the cover and exposed the keys, pristine ivory and ebony waiting for her touch. She sat down on the bench and adjusted it, then placed her hands in position, simply feeling the weight of the keys beneath her fingers before pressing down. The sound that emerged when she played a simple C major chord was so rich and resonant that tears sprang to her eyes. The piano at the community center where she occasionally practiced was old and slightly out of tune. This was like going from a bicycle to a Ferrari. Lucy began to play tentatively, scales at first, then simple pieces she knew by heart. Her fingers were stiff, unpracticed, but as minutes turned to hours, something awakened in her. The muscle memory returned, and with it, the joy that had once made her certain music would be her life. She lost track of time completely, moving from piece to piece, sometimes stopping to repeat difficult passages. By the time she finally glanced at her phone, it was nearly midnight. "Oh no," she muttered, quickly gathering her things. Tina would be worried sick. As she rushed toward the elevator, a handwritten note on the kitchen counter caught her eye. She hadn't noticed it earlier. "Lucy," it read, "food in the fridge. Help yourself. The piano is yours to use day or night. The competition requires 3 pieces. 1 Baroque, 1 classical, 1 romantic or modern. Choose what speaks to you. William." Lucy smiled at the note, then hurried home to explain to her roommate why she was hours late and why their lives were about to change dramatically. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Lucy reduced her shifts at the Golden Leaf to the minimum her manager would allow. Every spare moment was spent at William's penthouse, practicing until her fingers ached and her back screamed from hours of sitting at the piano. She chose her competition pieces carefully. Bach's Prelude and Fugue in C minor for the Baroque requirement, Mozart's Piano Sonata No. 11 for classical, and for her final piece, Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G minor, a brutally difficult choice but one that showcased both technical skill and emotional depth. William came by occasionally to listen. He never stayed long and offered few comments, but his presence spurred Lucy to work harder. Once, he brought a former concert pianist, now a professor at Westridge, who gave Lucy valuable technical advice on her hand positions and pedal work. "You have remarkable natural talent," the professor told her. "But you're rusty. You need to build your stamina back." Lucy took his words to heart, increasing her practice to 6 hours daily. She wore band-aids on her fingers when they blistered, soaked her wrists in ice water when they ached, and kept going. A week before the competition, William invited her to dinner at his office after her practice session. His corner suite offered another stunning view of the city, though Lucy was too nervous to appreciate it fully. "How do you feel?" he asked as they ate Thai food from takeout containers. Lucy poked at her pad Thai. "Terrified, excited, grateful." She looked up at him. "Mostly terrified," William smiled. "That's normal. Eleanor used to throw up before performances." "That's reassuring," Lucy said dryly, then immediately worried she'd been too casual with a man of his stature. But William laughed, a genuine warm sound. "You remind me so much of her sometimes." His expression grew serious. "Lucy, regardless of what happens at the competition, I want you to know that hearing you play these past weeks has been a gift." Lucy felt her throat tighten with emotion. "I'm the one who should be thanking you. This opportunity, it's like something from a movie, not real life." "Real life is often stranger than fiction," William replied. "Sometimes all we need is one person to believe in us." The night of the competition arrived too quickly and not soon enough. Lucy stood backstage at Westridge Conservatory's main concert hall, peering through the curtains at the gathering audience. The judges, 5 renowned musicians and professors, sat in the front row with clipboards. "I think I'm going to be sick," Lucy whispered. "You're ready for this," said William, who had appeared silently beside her. He looked different tonight. More formal in a tuxedo, his usual commanding presence softened by genuine concern for her. "What if I mess up? What if my fingers cramp? What if I forget the middle section of the Rachmaninoff?" The anxiety she'd been fighting for weeks came pouring out. "Then you'll recover and keep playing," William said simply. "That's all anyone can do." A stagehand approached. "Ms. Chen?" "You're on in 5 minutes," Lucy nodded, feeling lightheaded. There were 7 other competitors, all current music students or recent graduates. Lucy was the only outsider, a fact that hadn't gone unnoticed by the others, who had given her curious looks during orientation. "I don't belong here," she whispered. William put his hands on her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Yes, you do. Remember why you're doing this. Not for me, not for the scholarship, but for yourself, for the girl who loved music enough to keep playing even when life got in the way." His words steadied her. Lucy took a deep breath and nodded. "Ms. Chen? They're ready for you," the stagehand called. William squeezed her hand once, then let go. "Play from your heart. Nothing else matters." Lucy walked onto the stage, the bright lights momentarily blinding her. The concert hall was larger than she'd expected, filled with maybe 300 people. She spotted Tina in the middle section, giving her an enthusiastic thumbs up. Her father sat beside Tina, looking proud but confused by the fancy surroundings. The grand piano waited center stage, lid raised to project the sound. Lucy approached it with reverence, adjusted the bench, and sat down. She took one steadying breath, placed her hands on the keys, and began. The Bach came first, precise, mathematical, with its complex counterpoint requiring absolute control. Lucy's hours of practice paid off as her fingers found each note with certainty. By the time she reached the final measures, she'd forgotten her nerves, lost in the architecture of the music. A brief pause, then into Mozart. Lighter, more playful, the familiar sonata bringing a small smile to her face as she navigated its delicate passages. She risked a glance at the judges. They were watching intently, faces unreadable. Finally, the Rachmaninoff, the piece she both feared and loved the most. Its thunderous opening chords resonated through the hall. This was where Lucy could show not just her technique, but her soul. As she played, images flashed through her mind, her mother introducing her to piano as a child, the day she was accepted to music school, the night she decided to withdraw to care for her father, and these past weeks of rediscovery in William's apartment, falling in love with music all over again. The piece built to its climax, requiring every ounce of strength and control she possessed. Lucy's world narrowed to just her hands and the keys, everything else fading away as the music poured through her. The final chords rang out, powerful and resolute, and then silence. For a moment, Lucy sat perfectly still, slowly returning to reality. Then came the applause, surprisingly enthusiastic. She stood, somewhat dazed, and bowed as she'd been instructed. As she straightened, she caught William's eye from the wings. He was smiling with what looked suspiciously like tears in his eyes. Lucy walked off stage on shaking legs. William was waiting. "That was—" he began but seemed unable to find the right words. "Was it okay?" Lucy asked anxiously. Before he could answer, another competitor brushed past, heading for the stage. "That was incredible," the young woman whispered to Lucy. "I've been working on that Rachmaninoff for 2 years and never played it that well." Lucy blinked in surprise. "Thank you." She and William moved to the green room where the other competitors waited. Conversation stopped when they entered, and Lucy felt the weight of stares. "You're not a student," said one young man bluntly. "No," Lucy replied, lifting her chin. "I'm a waitress." His eyebrows shot up and whispers spread around the room. "For now," William added quietly. They sat through the remaining performances, each competitor uniquely talented. By the time the judges left to deliberate, Lucy had convinced herself she stood no chance against these polished music students. "It doesn't matter what happens now," she told William as they waited. "Getting to play on that stage, on that piano, it's more than I ever thought I'd have again." William studied her thoughtfully. "Would you go back to waiting tables and forget all this?" Lucy considered the question seriously.
"No," she finally said.
"Even if I don't win, I can't pretend I don't still love this. Somehow I'll find a way to keep music in my life." William nodded, looking satisfied. "Then you've already won what matters most." The competition coordinator appeared at the door. "They're ready to announce the results. All contestants to the stage, please." Lucy's heart pounded as she took her place in line with the other competitors. The audience quieted as the head judge approached the microphone, results in hand. "Before I announce our winners, I want to thank all of our talented performers tonight," he began. The level of musicianship was exceptional. Lucy closed her eyes, trying to prepare herself for disappointment. Our third-place winner, receiving a partial scholarship and summer study opportunity, is David Wong. Applause as a young man stepped forward to accept his certificate. Our second-place winner, Receiving a half scholarship and performance opportunity with the Westridge Symphony is Lucy Chen. Lucy's eyes flew open. Had she heard correctly? The other competitors were looking at her, some smiling, others clearly surprised. Somehow her feet carried her forward to accept the certificate and shake the judge's hand. Second place. Not first, but far better than she'd dared to hope. As she stepped back into line, still processing what had happened, she caught William's eye in the audience. He wasn't clapping with the others. Instead, he was watching her with an expression of pure satisfaction, like someone who had just witnessed exactly what they'd hoped to see. The reception after the competition buzzed with conversation. Lucy stood awkwardly near the refreshment table, clutching her second-place certificate while well-dressed strangers congratulated her. Her father had already hugged her 3 times, tears in his eyes, while Tina took photos for the future biography, as she joked. Ms. Chen. A woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled into a tight bun approached. "I'm Dr. Helen Winters, head of the piano department at Westridge." Lucy straightened immediately. "It's an honor to meet you. Your performance was quite remarkable, especially for someone who hasn't been actively studying." Dr. Winters spoke with the direct manner of someone used to evaluating talent. "Mr. Barrett mentioned your unique circumstances." Lucy glanced across the room where William was engaged in conversation with several board members. "He's been incredibly generous." "Yes, well, William has always had an eye for exceptional talent." Dr. Winters handed Lucy a business card. "I'd like you to come to my office tomorrow morning at 9. We need to discuss your scholarship details and academic placement." "Academic placement?" Lucy asked, confused. "I thought the second-place prize was only a half scholarship." Dr. Winters gave her an appraising look. "Normally, yes, but your situation is unusual. 9 o'clock, Miss Chen, don't be late." As the older woman walked away, Tina sidled up beside Lucy. "Who was the scary lady?" "The head of the piano department," Lucy replied, staring at the business card. "She wants to meet with me tomorrow." "That's good, right?" "I think so." Lucy wasn't sure what to feel anymore. The night had been a whirlwind of emotions. The terror before performing, the transcendent state while playing, the shock of hearing her name called for second place, and now this cryptic invitation. A gentle hand touched her elbow. William had appeared beside her, looking pleased but reserved. "Congratulations, Lucy, your performance was extraordinary." "Thank you," she said sincerely. "For everything. I never would have been here without you." William shook his head. "I merely opened a door. You walked through it on your own merit." Lucy's father joined them, extending his hand to William. "Mr. Barrett, I'm Henry Chen, Lucy's father. I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for my daughter." William shook his hand warmly. "No thanks necessary, Mr. Chen. Your daughter has remarkable talent. The world deserves to hear it." As the 2 men chatted, Lucy felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find a young man about her age with kind eyes and a shy smile. "Hi, I'm Ben, 3rd place," he said, offering his hand. "I just wanted to say your Rachmaninoff was, well, it made me feel things. That's the highest compliment one pianist can give another." Lucy blushed slightly as she shook his hand. "Thanks, your Bach was incredible. So clean and precise. 8 years of practice," Ben said with a self-deprecating smile. "I was sure I'd place higher until you played." "Where did you study before?" "State University," Lucy replied. "But I never finished. Had to drop out during sophomore year." Ben's eyebrows shot up. "You're kidding." That performance was conservatory level. Their conversation was interrupted by a photographer wanting to take pictures of all the winners together. As Lucy posed with Ben and the first-place winner, a serious young woman named Grace who had performed a flawless program of technically demanding pieces, she felt a strange sense of belonging. For the first time in years, she was in a room full of people who spoke her language, the language of music. Later that night, after saying goodbye to her father and promising Tina she'd be home soon, Lucy found herself alone with William in his car. His driver was taking them back to the city from the conservatory's suburban campus. "Dr. Winters wants to meet with me tomorrow," Lucy said, breaking the comfortable silence. William nodded, unsurprised. "Helen is thorough. She'll want to assess where you fit in the program." "Do you think—" Lucy hesitated. "The second-place scholarship is only partial. I don't know if I can afford even reduced tuition." William looked out the window at the passing streetlights. Let's see what Helen has to say before worrying about that. I can't accept more money from you, Lucy said firmly. You've already done too much. I wasn't offering, William replied with a small smile. Though I would if you'd let me. But there are other scholarships, work-study programs. Westridge has resources for talented students in financial need. Lucy sighed, leaning her head back against the leather seat. This all still feels unreal. 3 weeks ago I was just a waitress with a dusty dream. Now, she gestured vaguely. Now you're still you, William said gently, just with new possibilities. When they reached her apartment building, a stark contrast to William's luxury high-rise, Lucy turned to him before getting out. Will I see you again? The question came out more vulnerable than she'd intended. William seemed surprised. Of course. I'm not simply abandoning you now that the competition is over. Relief flooded through her. Good, because I'd still like you to hear me play sometimes. If you want. I'd like that very much, William said softly. Lucy's meeting with Dr. Winters the next morning was nothing like she expected. Instead of a quick discussion about her half-scholarship, she found herself in a 3-hour evaluation session, playing scales, sight-reading new pieces, and answering detailed questions about her musical background and training. By noon, Lucy was exhausted and confused. Dr. Winters had revealed nothing about why this extensive assessment was necessary. One more thing. Ms. Chen, Dr. Winters said, sliding a folder across her desk. These are the details of your scholarship and program placement. I've taken the liberty of creating a specialized track for you, considering your unusual background. Lucy opened the folder with trembling hands. The first document stated in clear terms, full tuition scholarship and living stipend. She looked up in shock. I don't understand. I won second place. Dr. Winters removed her reading glasses. Yes, you did. But we also have discretionary scholarships for exceptional circumstances. Your performance last night, combined with your background and today's evaluation, qualifies you for our renewal program. Renewal program? It's for musicians who showed early promise but faced significant interruptions in their training. Quite rare. We typically accept one student every few years. Lucy stared at the document, afraid to believe what she was reading. Who approved this? The scholarship committee, of which I am chair. Dr. Winters gave a thin smile. Mr. Barrett recused himself from the vote, if that's your concern. It had been, though Lucy hadn't wanted to admit it. The last thing she wanted was to be a charity case. You earned this, Ms. Chen, Dr. Winters continued as if reading her thoughts. Your technical skills need refinement, yes, but you have something many technically perfect students lack, the ability to move an audience. That can't be taught. Lucy felt tears threatening. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Say you'll work harder than you've ever worked before, Dr. Winters replied briskly. This program is intensive. You'll be catching up on years of formal training while moving forward. It won't be easy. I understand. Dr. Winters nodded, apparently satisfied. Classes begin next month. That should give you time to arrange your affairs. Lucy left the meeting in a daze. Outside the administration building, she pulled out her phone to call Tina, then stopped. The first person she wanted to tell wasn't her roommate or even her father. She called William instead. Lucy, he answered on the second ring. How was your meeting? They offered me a full scholarship, she blurted out. Something called the renewal program. Did you know about this? There was a pause. I knew the program existed, William said carefully. But the decision was Helen's, not mine. Lucy sat on a nearby bench watching students cross the manicured campus. I start next month. Congratulations, William said, genuine warmth in his voice. How do you feel? Terrified, excited, grateful. She laughed. Same as before the competition, I guess. Fear means you understand the importance of what you're undertaking, William said. It's healthy. Lucy took a deep breath. I need to give notice at the restaurant. Find someone to take over my lease. Figure out where I'll live near campus. One step at a time, William advised. Focus on the music first. The rest will follow. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of arrangements. Lucy gave notice at the Golden Leaf, her manager throwing her a small goodbye party complete with a cake shaped like a piano. Her father helped her pack up her few belongings while Tina promised to find a new roommate. Dr. Winters connected her with campus housing, a small studio apartment in a building reserved for music students. where practicing at all hours was not just permitted but expected. Through it all, William remained a steady presence. He never interfered, but was always available when Lucy called with questions or moments of panic. 2 days before classes were to begin, he invited her to dinner at his penthouse. "A proper goodbye to your practice space," he explained. Lucy arrived to find the apartment transformed. The dining table was set elegantly with candles and flowers. Delicious smells wafted from the kitchen where a personal chef was putting final touches on their meal. "This is too much," Lucy protested as William handed her a glass of sparkling water. "Nonsense. It's a celebration." After dinner, they moved to the living room where the Steinway waited. Without being asked, Lucy sat at the bench and began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune, the piece William had first heard her humming at the restaurant. When she finished, William was quiet for a long moment. "Will you play for me?" Lucy asked suddenly. "I just realized I've never heard you play." William looked startled. "I don't play, but your wife was a pianist. I assumed Eleanor tried to teach me." A sad smile crossed his face. "I have no talent for it, but I love to listen." Lucy moved over on the bench. "Come here." Hesitantly, William joined her. "Put your hands like this," she instructed, demonstrating a simple C major position. "Now press down gently." William complied, producing a basic chord that resonated through the room. "There," Lucy said softly. "Now you've played." William stared at his hands on the keys, then at Lucy. Something unspoken passed between them, not romantic, but a deep understanding that transcended their different worlds. "I have something for you," William said finally, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small box and handed it to Lucy. Inside was an antique silver locket on a delicate chain. Lucy opened it to find a tiny photograph of a young woman at a piano. Beautiful, with the same intense expression Lucy recognized from her own reflection when she played. "Eleanor," she whispered. William nodded. "She wore this for every performance. Said it connected her to all the pianists who came before her." He closed Lucy's fingers gently around the locket. "Now it's yours." "I can't accept this," Lucy protested, though her hand tightened around the precious object. "You can, and you will," William said firmly. "Eleanor would have wanted you to have it. Consider it a talisman for your new journey." As Lucy put on the locket, feeling its weight against her collarbone, she realized something important. 3 weeks ago, she'd walked into this apartment certain that William Barrett wanted something from her. Now she understood the truth was exactly the opposite. He'd been giving her pieces of himself all along. "Thank you," she said simply. William nodded, understanding all she couldn't express. "Play something else," he requested. "Something new you're working on for school." Lucy turned back to the piano, her fingers finding the keys with newfound confidence. As she began to play, a piece she'd never attempted before the competition, she felt as if her life had been divided into 2 distinct parts. Before that night at the Golden Leaf, and everything that came after. And as the music filled the apartment, Lucy knew with absolute certainty that while her path forward would be challenging, she would never again be the girl who let her dreams slip away. 3 years passed in a blur of practice rooms, theory classes, and performances. Lucy's days at the Golden Leaf seemed like another lifetime, as she immersed herself completely in the demanding world of the Westridge Conservatory. The renewal program pushed her to her limits, catching up on years of formal training while simultaneously moving forward. There were moments of doubt, of course, late nights when her hands cramped from hours of repetitive exercises, mornings when younger students with more polished techniques made her question if she belonged, days when the theory exams and history papers piled up, and she wondered if waiting tables had been easier. But for every moment of doubt, there were breakthroughs that made it all worthwhile. The first time she mastered a piece she'd once thought impossible. The standing ovation after her sophomore recital. The day Dr. Winters, still intimidating after 3 years, had simply nodded after a performance and said, "Now you're playing like a true artist." Through it all, William remained a constant in her life. He never interfered with her studies, understanding intuitively that this journey was hers alone. But he attended every important performance, often bringing friends from the music world. Occasionally they had dinner, where he would listen with genuine interest, to her excited explanations of musical concepts or her frustrated rants about difficult professors. "You've changed," he told her during one such dinner. Midway through her final year, Lucy looked up from her pasta, surprised. "Have I?" William nodded. "You carry yourself differently. More confident, like someone who knows exactly who they are." Lucy hadn't noticed the change herself, but she understood what he meant. Music school hadn't just improved her playing, it had transformed her entire sense of self. She no longer felt like someone pretending to belong in the world of classical music. She was a pianist, full stop. As graduation approached, Lucy faced the question that haunts all music students. What next? Most of her classmates were applying for graduate programs, preparing for competitions or auditioning for orchestras and chamber groups. "Have you decided what you're doing after graduation?" Ben asked one day. They had become close friends over the years, occasionally performing duets together for school functions. Lucy shrugged as they walked across campus. "Dr. Winters thinks I should apply for the master's program here. Keep developing before I face the real world. But what do you want?" It was a simple question, but Lucy realized she hadn't really asked herself that. She'd been so focused on catching up, on proving she belonged, that she hadn't thought beyond graduation. That evening, she found herself at William's penthouse, sitting at the Steinway that had started everything. She still practiced here occasionally when she needed space away from the school practice rooms. William was out of town on business, but the doorman always welcomed her. As her fingers moved through a Chopin nocturne, Lucy considered Ben's question. What did she want? More school seemed like the safe choice, but something else had been brewing in her mind. A half-formed idea she'd been afraid to voice aloud. When William returned from his trip, Lucy invited him to coffee at a small cafe near campus. He looked tired from travel but pleased to see her. "I have something to ask you," Lucy said after they'd settled with their drinks. William raised an eyebrow. "That sounds serious." "It is." "Well, it could be." Lucy took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about what to do after graduation. And I had this idea, but it would require your help again, and I've already taken so much from you." "Tell me the idea first," William said. "Then we'll worry about the rest," Lucy nodded. "Remember how I started playing again? A customer at a restaurant happened to hear me and gave me a chance." "I recall something like that," William said with a small smile. "There are so many talented people out there, working regular jobs, putting their passions aside because of financial constraints or family obligations or just bad timing. What if—" She hesitated, then pushed forward. "What if we created a foundation that finds those people and gives them the same chance I got?" William's expression was unreadable. "Go on." "We could start with music, find restaurants, hotels, bars with pianos. Hold open auditions. Look for that raw talent that just needs opportunity and support." Lucy's words came faster as she warmed to her idea. "Eventually we could expand to other arts, painting, dance, even writing. The Eleanor Barrett Foundation for Artistic Renewal." At the mention of his late wife's name, William went very still. Lucy immediately backpedaled. "I'm sorry. That was presumptuous. We could call it something else or forget the whole thing. It was just an idea." "No," William interrupted softly. "It's perfect, really." Lucy searched his face. Eleanor would have loved it. William's eyes were bright with what might have been tears. She always said talent was distributed equally, but opportunity wasn't. "Exactly." Lucy leaned forward excitedly. "I could run it after graduation, I mean. Use my story to inspire others. You could be the financial backer and advisor. We could change lives, William. I have no doubt." Over the next few months, as Lucy completed her final semester, the idea transformed from a concept into reality. William's connections and resources opened doors that would have been firmly closed to Lucy alone. By the time she received her diploma, with highest honors, a fact that still amazed her, the foundation had legal status, an office space, and its first round of funding. The day after graduation, Lucy stood in that office, formerly a small art gallery that William had purchased and renovated. Large windows let in natural light, illuminating the reception area where a beautiful upright piano waited. Down a hallway were practice rooms, a small performance space, and administrative offices. "What do you think?" William asked, watching her take it all in. "It's perfect," Lucy whispered. "Better than I imagined." William handed her a set of keys. "The Eleanor Barrett Foundation for Artistic Renewal. And its first director, Lucy Chen. Lucy clutched the keys tightly. I won't let you down. I know. The Foundation's first open audition was held a month later at the Golden Leaf. Lucy had approached her former manager with the idea, and he'd been enthusiastic, especially when William offered to upgrade the restaurant's old piano to a new Yamaha Baby Grand. Word spread quickly. By the day of the event, there was a line of hopeful pianists stretching down the block. Waiters, office workers, nurses, teachers, all with hidden talents and deferred dreams. Some were excellent, others merely good, but every single one played with the kind of passion that comes from loving music too much to abandon it completely. Lucy, William and Dr. Winters, who had agreed to serve on the Foundation's advisory board, listened to each performer. By the end of the day, they had selected 5 musicians for the Foundation's inaugural fellowship program. A year of intensive training, mentorship, and performance opportunities, culminating in a recital at Westridge's main hall. The last audition of the day was a surprise. Thomas, the Golden Leaf's longtime manager, sat down at the piano after all the applicants had finished. I've always wanted to try, he explained sheepishly to Lucy. His technique was rough, self-taught, but there was a natural musicality to his playing that couldn't be denied. When he finished, Lucy glanced at William and Dr. Winters, who both nodded. 6 fellows, Lucy announced. The program can accommodate 6. That evening, after everyone had left, Lucy remained at the restaurant. She sat at the new piano, running her fingers lightly over the keys. Full circle, William commented, sitting beside her with 2 glasses of champagne. This is where it all began. Lucy took the offered glass. Sometimes I still can't believe it. That night. If you hadn't come in, if I hadn't been humming, if you hadn't asked me to play. Life is full of those moments, William said thoughtfully, small decisions that change everything. Do you remember what you said to me before the competition? William smiled. I said many things. You said I should play from my heart, that nothing else mattered. Lucy turned to face him fully. That's what I want the Foundation to be about. Not just technical skill, but heart. Finding people who play, or paint, or dance, or write, because they can't imagine not doing it, even when life gets in the way. To playing from the heart, William said, raising his glass. And to Eleanor, Lucy added softly, touching the silver locket she still wore for every performance. They clinked glasses gently, the sound mingling with the ambient noise of the restaurant as it prepared for the dinner service. Lucy could almost see herself 3 years ago, rushing between tables, humming absently, unaware that her life was about to change forever. 6 months later, Lucy stood backstage at Westridge Conservatory's main concert hall, the same stage where she'd competed 3 years before. But tonight she wasn't performing. Tonight she watched with pride as the Foundation's 6 fellows prepared for their debut recital. Thomas adjusted his tie nervously. I can't do this, he muttered. These people paid actual money for tickets. They're expecting professionals. They're expecting passion, Lucy corrected him. And you have that in abundance. She glanced out into the audience where William sat in the front row. Beside him was her father, Tina, and Ben. The hall was full, partly due to William's connections, partly due to the human interest story that had spread through local media. From Waitress to Maestro, how one woman's second chance inspired a movement had been the headline in the city paper. Dr. Winters appeared at Lucy's side. 5 minutes, she announced briskly. First up is... I know the order, Lucy assured her with a smile. After 3 years, she'd learned not to be intimidated by the older woman's manner. As the house lights dimmed, Lucy gave each fellow a final word of encouragement, then slipped into her seat in the audience beside William. Nervous? He whispered, as applause greeted the first performer, a former accountant with a gift for Liszt. For them, yes. For the Foundation, no. Lucy reached over and squeezed his hand briefly. This is just the beginning. And as the music began to fill the hall, Lucy closed her eyes and listened. She heard more than just the notes. She heard dreams deferred but not abandoned, passion temporarily set aside but never extinguished. She heard herself 3 years ago, and all the future musicians who would get their second chance because one man had taken the time to listen to a waitress humming while she worked. Some might call it luck, or fate, or coincidence. Lucy preferred to think of it as what happens when opportunity meets preparation, when someone who has never stopped believing in their dream encounters someone who has the power to make it come true. A small silver locket rested against her heart, connecting her to another pianist across time, a woman who had given up her dream, but whose legacy would now help others fulfill theirs. And beside Lucy sat the man who had bridged that connection, who had recognized in a waitress's humming the echo of his wife's passion. As the music soared around them, Lucy knew with absolute certainty that this, not her own performing career but creating opportunities for others, was what she had been meant to do all along. Her journey from that first night at the Golden Leaf had led her exactly where she needed to be.